Saving America one entrepreneur at a time, it's the Biz Wrap Podcast with your host, Michael Manahan. The show that celebrates small business and entrepreneurs. It's Biz Wrap Radio with your host, small businessman, educator, and author, Michael Manahan. And welcome to another edition of Biz Wrap Radio. It's your host, Michael Manahan, and we are here fighting for small business. Yes, this is the show all about small business and entrepreneurs, the backbone of our economy. Every time we come out of a recession, it's small businesses that create most of the new jobs. Most people in America work for small business. The entrepreneurial mindset is what has created America, the greatest economy in the world. And yet we're fighting a battle out here. For whatever reason, we've got big business that's always trying to put us out of business. We got the banks that don't seem to want to do business with us, and we've got the government printing more regulations and rules to keep us in line and control what we're doing. And so it's becoming increasingly difficult to do what we do as small business people. So here at BizWrap Radio, we're trying to help you run your business, help you make more profits, have more fun running your business, help you deal with the staff, deal with customers, develop more effective marketing strategies. Whatever it is, we're here to help you with your business. And if you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to raise money, we're here to help you with that too. We've got a lot of contacts in the money-raising world, a lot of funds and investors who are looking for good projects. In fact, we just came back and taped an entire show at an investor conference down in Newport Beach, California, and that'll be broadcast here in the next few weeks. Very interesting and exciting stuff. Now we are going to get to our guest for this week. This is a gentleman who's known as the CEO Whisperer and Turnaround Man, and it is Patrick Rettig. Patrick, how are you doing?
I'm doing really good. Thank you for having me on the show.
Well, I'm excited about this because turnaround in my mind means that you fix troubled businesses, and I know there's a lot of troubled businesses out there. Is that what you do? Tell us a little bit about what you actually do.
I actually have probably the best job for me in the world. I help businesses that, yes, they are in trouble, but I would say that's an understatement. I like to say that I help companies that have been left for dead. And I simply don't believe that they're dead.
Wow! So you're like that doctor that never gives up. The patient, the pulse just stopped, and he's there pounding on the chest, trying to bring the poor sucker back to life.
You know, sometimes it feels that way. But when a guy says to me, "I don't know what to do," everybody tells me it's over. I say to him, "What do you think?" And he says, "I want my business." That's my guy. That's my guy.
Now, how do you find the people that are looking to get help with their business? Because I notice here it says that you don't have a resume, you don't have business cards, you don't use social media. How do you find the clients and the troubled businesses that are going to employ you?
Well, first of all, I will address the social media comment, but first I want to tell you that mostly I receive calls from word of mouth. Uh-huh. People talk about it, and people that are successful or have succeeded such terrible times, they want to talk about it, and they tell others about it, and people call me. But recently, I had to realign myself with social media. I mean, for crying out loud, we now live on planet Earth 2014. And I now have a business card, if I can remember to bring them. I now have a wonderful website, and I enjoy looking at it because it reminds me of things that I have done. And it also helps people when they hire me and they show their friends, or they have constituents, or they have creditors and banks. They look at my website and they say, "Oh, I get it. He's been doing this for a while." So in a lot of ways, a good social media program needed to be learned by me so that I could share with my customers how they can use social media to get more business. But for me, basically, I get my business by word of mouth.
Okay, so you get business by word of mouth, but and it says here that you've helped hundreds of businesses. What typically, is there a pattern to businesses with problems? Is there one common theme that you see more than any others with the businesses that you work with?
Well, if I had to sum it up, I would say there is a drain, D-R-A-I-N, a drain of some sort. Now, that could be simply a guy who overachieves. He decides that if he can sell 10 widgets, maybe if he sold 50, he would make, that much more money, when in fact cost of goods will kill him. But nobody knows that until they actually take a bank loan out and try to make 50 because 10 were profitable. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. Absolutely. I was reading an article about a guy, I think he's up in Northern California, and he produces these very high-end bicycles. And he's got like a 3-year waiting list. He only makes I think it's like 50 or 60 of them a year. And in the article, it said that people had suggested to him, well, look, you're such demand. Why don't you, have a bigger operation, hire more employees, produce more of these bicycles, and it sounds great, but it's not as easy as it sounds to expand your business. And of course, it takes capital, it takes organizational skills, it takes more employees. So yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
Well, I always ask people, how much money do you actually need to make? And when people get crazy about what they need a bigger house, they need a bigger car, they need a better this, they need more of this, blah, 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 blah. I hear the trap in there. Now, the example that we have just discussed is an easy one. It's an easy one. People want to make more money, so they multiply what they're making, and they find very quickly that diminishing returns becomes their best friend. But that is not the primary hit. Complacency is also a rough one. People start making money and they become complacent with their jobs, and they might replace it with the what I refer to as the 4 headless horsemen. They are terrible, terrible things that hunt down my wonderful CEOs. It is sex, drugs, alcohol, and gambling. People get sidetracked on these crazy things, and it costs them their life. It drains off money, and they stop paying attention to their businesses. Now, many people don't talk about that, but I must say, if you're listening to me out there, there is no sin that you can commit that we can't fix as long as you're breathing. When we are out there fighting for ourselves, we learn by making mistakes. We learn. And when you make a mistake and you're hurt by it, you can do 10 times better. I'd say that's on the inside, 10 times. You can do an immeasurable amount better. And we can fix things, no matter how bad they get. If you're breathing out there and you're willing to work, we can set all these things off to the side, these nasty things that cost us money. And what costs us money? Bad behavior costs us money. It comes down to bad behavior. Now, do most people make bad investments? Well, they make different investments. They're like, hey, I'm doing really good at selling roses, so maybe I should invest in property. Oh, man, that's a big one. Everybody decides they're doing so good in something that maybe they should try something else. If I could give everybody a couple of things out there, one, there is nothing that you have done wrong that I haven't heard and that we can't fix. It's going to take work, and it's not going to be convenient, but if you're willing to live through a little inconvenience, we can put things back in order. That's one. Two, if you're doing really good at selling shoes, stick to selling shoes and be the best shoe seller there ever was. Stop thinking, if I can sell shoes, maybe I'll start building rocket ships. It's not a good idea. Complacency is the other one. I made my business so that I wouldn't have to work so hard. That's funny. That cracks me up. I got my own business. I have 2 airplanes in case one breaks. I have 2 airplanes. If one breaks, I couldn't get to work, so I have to have a second one. I have a duplicate 2 airplanes. I work day and night. And how do I feel about that? I love it.
Okay, Patrick.
I am so blessed.
I got to cut you off because we are coming up to the end of this segment. We got to go to commercial break. It's Biz Rap Radio. Your host, Michael Manahan. I'm on the line with Patrick Rettig, and we will be back right after these messages. And we're back with Biz Rap Radio, your host, Michael Manahan. Of course, this is the show all about small business and entrepreneurs. But today we've got on the show Patrick Rettig. Patrick is the CEO whisperer and turnaround man, and he helps businesses that are in trouble. And in the last segment, Patrick, you were talking about these vices that cause problems with people who run businesses. I think you mentioned sex, drugs, alcohol, and gambling, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. And, I want to sum that up with gambling is the most insidious of them all, because we think gambling is going to perhaps Vegas and having a night of it and accidentally spending too much money. That's easy. Gambling is when you put too much money on your charge card to make payroll. Gambling is refining your house when your family lives in it and you're trying to do something at your business and you don't know how you're going to pay it back. You start gambling with your life. But that all set aside, I want to set all that aside and come to the most honorable of problems of a small business owner. The most honorable. It will cost him, but it's the most honorable. All right, here it is. The big word, a four-letter word, work. Some people work so hard they don't have time to make any money. They work so hard at what they know how to do. So, for instance, to use my example as a shoemaker, if you are a shoemaker, you're so busy making shoes that you forget to talk with your customers. And talking with your customers, kicking stones as it is, as my father used to tell me, kicking stones with people is where people learn to trust you, and they don't care if you're a little bit more money than the next guy. If they can trust you and you give them a good pair of shoes, they're happy to come by with a cup of coffee and say hi. People work so hard sometimes on the list that they forget to do the rest of the list. What do I mean by that? On a list today for my job, there's about 11 things on my list to do today. About 8 of them I know how to do really good. And I love doing about 8 of them on the list. The rest of them, 9, 10, and 11, I hate doing them. I don't want to do those other 3. So if I'm not careful, I will do the 8 I want to do, and I will fail to do the 3 things that need to be done. What are generally the 3 things that people don't like to do? They don't like to balance their books. They don't like to follow their charge cards and see what they have been buying. They don't like to come to the office and reorganize production. They like to do the things they like to do. And they like to say, I hired someone to do those things. Well, I'm here to tell you, a CPA cannot do a good job if you are not an integral part of helping the CPA understand your numbers. A bookkeeper cannot do a good job without you helping. But mostly importantly, your family cannot do a good job of growing up and having relationships if you are not a part of it, and your employees cannot do a good job if you are not there helping and learning with them. We must all, as small business owners, have our hands on everything, even if it's just a little bit. Of course, you can't micromanage everyone, but if you could, it's not such a bad thing. Micromanaging gets a really bad rap. But because I know everything that's going on in my business, I can help much better with problems.
Well, just let me speak to that for a minute, because I actually understand what you're saying. And I think also there's a difference between micromanaging and managing effectively. Micromanage. I worked for a guy for a while who was a micromanager, and he would say, now, Mike, I want you to do this, and here's how you need to do it. And it might be a very simple task, but he'd go through it. Well, first of all, you need to get on the internet. Second of all, you need to do a search for this particular thing. Thirdly, you need to, step by step. I don't think that kind of micromanagement is appropriate, but I think.
Let me just tell you, What you described as a jerk, I was talking about micromanaging. What you described as a jerk, okay? I didn't say anything about jerk. I was just saying micromanaging, let's just say we had a definition problem. Perhaps we have a bit of a definition. If you know what to do, you can follow up with people very effectively. I think your word is very well. What you're describing is a jerk, and he doesn't have time to do his job if he's telling you how to turn on the computer, okay?
Yeah, you're right. In retrospect, that's a perfect description for that gentleman. But yeah, you're right. I find this is because, my background is finance and accounting, chief financial officer. I teach managerial accounting and entrepreneurial finance at Cal State University. And when I go in and consult with small businesses, I often find that the owner, if he doesn't have much of a financial background, it's, well, I don't really know what's going on over there. I hire Sally, and Sally kind of takes care of all of that. But it's not enough. As you say, as a business owner, you need to be at least involved enough to know what Sally is up to, and she needs to be providing you with information that you can use to make informed decisions in your business.
Well, I think that Sally also needs from you the inspiration to proceed every day, that she's not alone in this little hole in the wall and everything depends on her, and if she makes a mistake, she causes trouble. Sally needs to know that she's on a team and that her boss is not only inspired by her, but inspires her to do her job as well.
Yeah, and now that you mention that reminds me of another gentleman I worked with some years ago. But it was a very interesting character because he would kind of sneak into the office in the morning. Nobody would even know he'd arrived. He'd go into his own office and close the door, and of course you couldn't see into his office. And then, literally, you might get a phone call from him, and he'd ask a question, and you're like, well, where are you? He's in his office, and he never even walked through the office, said good morning to people, how you doing, how's it going today? I mean, he would communicate by phone from his office with the closed door with people who were 5 feet down the hallway, and then at the end of the day, he would get up, open his door, sneak down the hallway and leave without saying goodbye to anybody. It wasn't a big company, but it was 30, 40 employees. I mean, they were lucky if they saw this guy once or twice a month because he was like some stealth CIA agent hiding in his office and sneaking down the hallways.
You bring up a very interesting point. Let me give you the exception to the rule lesson, the exception to the rule. I use Rocky. Remember Rocky? The first Rocky that came out, the movie, and Sylvester Stallone directed it and starred in it and wrote it. Remember that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, all right. Well, many people came out, many children, young people, young men and women, ruined their lives coming out here using that template that they were going to write, direct, and star in their movie. And that was an exception to the rule. It's okay to dream, honestly. It's the best thing ever to have dreams. But you must be able to pay for your dreams. So when people, like you have described, the people that succeed like that, we hear about this guy that was far away but all his people around him, but he was super successful. That is an exception to the rule. More often than not, the people that do well are willing to change, and they are very agreeable to relationships. They want relationships. They inspire each other, as we were talking about. They inspire their employees, and they allow their employees to inspire them. They get excited about people and their personalities and their personal lives. And those kinds of people do well more often than not. The exception to the rule sometimes, though, we use as the example. And man, can that get us into trouble. I tell my kids, you want to be a rock star? Be a rock star. Make sure you can pay for your way while you're being a rock star so that people respect you. You must be able to pay your way. I am so for Sylvester Stallone, and I love Rocky. But I look at it and I say, that lucky guy, not only did he get a break, but then he knew what to do with it. Bravo! But that is not the way we must be careful with those things like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes absolutely all the sense in the world. Look at Patrick. We're going to have to go here for another break. Very quickly, how can somebody get a hold of you if they're interested in speaking with you?
This is crazy. It's called a telephone. I know in this age, it's called a telephone. Operators are standing by. No, I am standing by. Area code 760-662-9668. If I don't call you back right away, call me again, and I will get back to you. Promise, word of honor.
Okay, that's it. If you're having troubles in your business, you may think you might need a turnaround person to give you a hand, call Patrick. We got to go to commercial break. BizRap Radio, your host, Michael Manahan. We will be back with more right after these messages. And welcome back to BizRap Radio. It's your host, Michael Manahan. This is the show all about small business and entrepreneurs, and thank you so much for joining us or sticking with us. If you just joined us, we are speaking with a gentleman who goes by the CEO Whisperer and Turnaround Man. It's Patrick Rettig, and Patrick is out there helping businesses that are in trouble. He's been giving us some great advice on things we should be doing and things we should be avoiding. Patrick, thank you so much for sticking with us.
Oh, you're absolutely welcome. It's an honor and a privilege to be on such a show like yourselves. And, you were mentioning at the top of this show about investors. If I may give a word about investing, if I may.
Absolutely.
I have many companies that were startup companies, and they have done well over the years. I have second, third, fourth generation companies, but all of them had a little money to start with. And the best way to honor an investor who believes in you is pre-sale. If you have, again, we're going to go back to our shoemaker. If you have 20 pairs of shoes that you have already sold, they're not made, you say, I have made one pair of shoes, this is what they look like, would you like to order some? That is the best way to respect an investor. It is so crazy out here because people come to me and say, I have a good idea. If somebody would fund it, I know I'd sell 1 million of them. Well, how do you know you would sell 1 million of them? Who has told you would sell 1 million of them? Sometimes an investor, because he's excited too, and a new CEO might get together with an excited investor, and boom, they fund a company before they have any sales in motion. It sounds so simple, and I know to you you're saying, well, of course, Patrick, of course, but people that are listening out there, if you can demonstrate to an investor that you can sell these things, I don't care if you can sell 5 of them. If you can sell 500 of them, 50 of them, just 5 of them, if you can sell something, you are respecting the relationship, a new relationship of an investor, and things will go a long way. How to produce 5 effectively, that's the second chapter. But first, if you know how to make light bulbs, show me that you can sell 100 light bulbs, that people want 100 of your light bulbs. And boy, the relationship already has started good. Now, I know it sounds crazy and it sounds like maybe common sense, but may I add, common sense is not so common, and stupid is really, really expensive. Okay?
I know. I absolutely, completely understand what you're saying, and that's very, very good advice. There's thousands, probably millions of great ideas out there, but that you can only turn those ideas into businesses if people will actually buy the product or the service that you're planning on delivering to them. And so many entrepreneurs, particularly ones who are very early stage, they've got a concept, maybe they've got a business plan. And what I find, I look at their business plan, and there's 30, 40 pages about their product and how great it is and how they built it and how it works. And then there's half a page on how they're going to sell it. You've got to do more than that when you're an entrepreneurial company and you're a startup enterprise. You've got to really identify the market, identify the customers, and then test the market and make sure the people you think will buy it will actually do so. And so that is actually great advice. Patrick, let's change the subject here because we're in our last segment, and Part of this is I've really enjoyed our conversation back and forth, but part of it is also I want to help our listeners. If somebody out there, right now they're struggling with their business, it's not going the way they think it should be going, they're losing money, they're doing what you talked about earlier, they're perhaps borrowing against their house or running up their credit cards, things are not going right. What is the one, I would say, if there is one, piece of advice you would give to those people and tell them this is what you need to be doing in the next 24, 48 hours, whatever. This is what you need to do right now?
An excellent question. And it has been very simple for me to answer over the years, but very not so simple to receive by people. Discernment. You've heard that word, being discerning about who you talk to about your problems. Everybody has an opinion, and we've heard the jokes about there's a lot of opinions.
Yes.
And, well, there are, and there are a lot of people with opinions. Those people that have done exactly what is wrong with your company and survived it are the only people that can help you. And I am the only person I know that does what I do. I don't belong to a firm, so I don't have the overhead that a firm. Not to give a firm any of a bad rap, but when there is a Chapter 11 or a bankruptcy looming, to have a navigator take you through that is critical, and there are very few. If you are listening to my voice, there isn't a long list behind this voice. Chapter 11 reorganization is not for the faint of heart, and being an entrepreneur out there is not for big babies. Being an entrepreneur out there is a man's job, a strong job that needs to be overcome. And I want to say to those women out there that are in charge of corporations, it's a tough gig. And sometimes women get better faster than men because they have an element of survival in them that I don't think a man has, simply by nature, an element of survival, and they feel it faster. They get it faster sometimes than men. But I'm telling you, all entrepreneurs, men or women, CEOs in that chair, it's a lonely job. And when things go bad, everybody has an agenda. Everybody has an agenda to get paid first. The way I do things, and I don't have time to talk about it on this particular show, but I am very careful and cautious. You mentioned knowledge. All knowledge has got to come from heaven, man. Knowledge is good. Without knowledge is fear. Without knowledge is fear. And people do not have the knowledge to get out of trouble, and fear is a crazy place to be alone. You need knowledge. So if you have fear, pick up that phone. Don't clown around. Pick up that phone and call me, and I will direct you almost immediately, as you said, 24 or 48 hours. They get better. Can they get better that fast? You betcha. You know, when we go to the doctor with a broken arm, it's broken, and we're, oh my God, it's horribly, it's difficult, we're crying, we've got a medical alert. As soon as they fix it, as soon as they put it in a cast, we're sore and we don't feel good. Immediately we are in a better place than we were before we got that doctor to help us reset that bone. When you call me, it's already at the end of the line. The lawyers have taken all your money. You are mortgaged to the hilt. The CPA can't be paid. You owe everybody money. Nobody's on your side, even if they say they are. They can't be. They can't be. You need someone to navigate the hounds of Baskerville, I call it. And if you've ever read that great story, I think Conan Doyle, and it is a magnificent story. And, Mr. Watson is in it, of course, and our favorite private investigator, Sherlock Holmes. But the hounds of Baskerville, once they get in your yard, you're in trouble. And you need
right.
a qualified dude to get them outside of the fence so that you can maintain your family. And here's the big one. This is crazy. The big one, you've got to be able to return to peace of mind. You can't think when you're crazy out of your mind in reactive management mode. You need someone to come up alongside of you, and we hang on. We hang on and we push the hounds of Baskerville back together. Because a CEO, like I said, is a very, very, it's a lonely job, especially when things go bad. When things are going good, everybody's your best friend. But when things go bad, you're out of answers. You have to be very discerning about who you ask the questions to and what you take on as advice. Because the last thing we need to do, as I always say, Now, you don't want to make one problem 3 or 5 or worse, okay?
Patrick, that's fabulous advice. Now, give us your number again, because we're coming up to the end of this segment. I want people to know how to get a hold of you.
Well, first of all, the RettigCorporation.com. The RettigCorporation.com. That's Rettig, R-E, T as in Tommy, T as in Tommy, I-G as in good guy. RettigCorporation.com. And my telephone number is 760-662-9668. I can't wait to talk to you. We're going to have a blast beating the odds. When you say to yourself, I've got a 0% chance of success, you're my guy. Because me, Evan, and you can put this baby back on track. I don't care what anybody says.
Well, you can't get a more positive spin on things than that. So if you're out there, if you're a business person, you're struggling, things aren't going the way you want them to, you're losing money, you're thinking, oh my gosh, I don't have much choice, maybe I'll have to close the doors. There are options for you. Patrick is the man you want to talk to. Contact him. Get some advice from him, and he may just be able to help you save your baby. Patrick, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me, and I hope to talk to you very soon.
Okay, you bet. It's Mike Manahan, your host, Biz Rap Radio, and we will return for the final segment of the show right after these messages. And welcome back to Biz Rap Radio. It's your host, Michael Manahan, and that was Patrick Rettig. What an interesting character. Great conversation with him. If you're just joining us, Biz Rap Radio is the show all about entrepreneurs and small business, and we are here to help you as a small business person or as an entrepreneur operate your business, start your business, run your business more effectively, make money, make more money. That's what it's all about. We need entrepreneurs. And thank you so much for listening. Now, we continue to talk about the government's intrusion into our lives, and it comes in two forms. One is a real kind of a simple, kind of a what I call a money grab. Let's face it, the government needs revenues. Most people, even people who don't pay a lot of taxes, don't like the idea of increased taxes. But the government has to have some taxes to operate on it. It's just the reality of the situation. I think everybody recognizes that, and I think most people are willing to pay a fair share towards the operations of the government. Of course, the big dispute always is, what is the fair share? How do you calculate that? I once heard somebody say that really that no tax is ultimately fair. But at the end of the day, taxes have to be paid, so we need to pay it. And as long as it's at least somewhat reasonable, I guess it's not too bad. But we're in an age when taxes really are becoming unreasonable. But there's a second reason government charges taxes, and it's nothing to do with just raising money. It's what I call social engineering. It's to try and direct and cause people to act and behave in certain ways. And I understand the arguments on both sides. On the one side, you want people to do things that are better for them, to make better choices, whether it's driving more safely, whether it is eating in a more healthful manner, whether it's buying a house, whether it's saving money for your retirement. I mean, these are things we want people to do. But on the flip side, every time we require somebody to do something, we, in effect, are limiting that person's freedoms and liberties. And a lot of the effort today to social engineer, that's what I'll call it, to try and get people to do things that the government wants the people to do, and that is really all about social engineering. A lot of it not only restricts our personal freedoms, but in addition puts a burden onto small business, onto businesses in general. But, again, it's, as we've discussed many times in the past, it's so much easier for a large business to kind of maneuver and manage government rules and regulations than it is for small businesses. I mean, large businesses are making billions of dollars in revenue and perhaps even billions of dollars in profit. It's not too difficult for them to hire one person or even a team of people that have to work on government compliance to make sure you're following all of the complex rules and regulations that you as a business person need to follow. But when it's a small business, you often don't have those resources. And the two things occur. One is either businesses try and comply and spend money to achieve compliance, because let's face it, no compliance with rules and regulations is free, or alternatively, sometimes small businesses don't bother trying to comply, and then if they get audited by whatever government department has instituted those particular rules and regulations, can be looking at very significant fines and penalties for not complying. So there's one that's caught my attention that it's this kind of trend that's going on here in the United States to socially engineer what people drink, and it's in the form of a soda tax. Now, we had New York City pass a soda tax. We have other cities around the country passing a soda tax, and we have an article in the Los Angeles Times here from David Lazarus, one of those uber liberals who wants the government to control everything. He wants a national soda tax. He wants the federal government to be instituting a soda tax and making it more expensive for people who drink sodas. Now, I'm the first person to say those sugary drinks are not good for you. There's no question about it. And certainly I'll believe some of the evidence that says those sugary drinks, or at least an excess of those sugary drinks, has contributed to obesity, particularly child obesity, but adult obesity here in the United States. Let's face it, everybody, not everybody, but a large portion of the population struggle with being overweight. And certainly an excessive intake of sugar is part of the problem. But where does personal liberty start and or stop, and social engineering start? Where do we manage that fine line? And not to mention the fact that if you increase the price of soda, then that affects small business people who sell sodas. And how fair is that? And why is it soda that we're taxing? I mean, when I walk through the grocery store, I go to my local Vaughn's or Ralph's or Albertson's grocery store. I could pull off hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of products off the shelf that I personally, and that probably research would show, are not all that good for you. I mean, should you be going to the frozen food section and getting a frozen pizza, or should you be passing through the fresh vegetable section and grabbing some lettuce and a few tomatoes and making yourself a salad? Well, is that really what we want the government doing? Do we want the government telling us what we can put in our mouth and what we cannot, and taxing the things that some government bureaucrat thinks are not good for you? These things have gone in cycles, too. There was a time when, I remember some years back, they said eggs weren't good for you. Well, what were we going to do? Tax eggs? But then all of a sudden, oh no, eggs are okay. Eggs aren't bad. You need eggs. And then for a while, they were telling everybody, you shouldn't eat pasta. And then you should eat pasta. And then another one was you can't drink coffee, and a cup of coffee is not bad for you, and there's all this conflicting evidence. But at the end of the day, where do we leave off with consumers' responsibility? Isn't it the responsibility of us as consumers to understand what we're putting in our mouth and to make wise decisions? I personally don't drink sugary drinks. I can't remember the last time I had a Coca-Cola. I bet it's been 20 years since I had a Coca-Cola. I don't drink 7-Up. I don't drink... I don't go to those stores that make those blended drinks, Jamba Juice and places like that. But isn't it up to us as individuals to educate ourselves and to learn. And every time the government tries to social engineer, what you're really doing is taking something away from the individual, taking away individual freedom and choice. Look, I don't think you should drink those sugary drinks. But I don't think the long arm of the government should be coming down and telling you in the form of taxation that you shouldn't be drinking those sugary drinks. I mean, if the government wants to, I don't know, spend a little bit of money on some advertisements, which it probably already does, by the way, spend some money on advertisements telling people that, hey, sugary drinks are not good for you, you got to watch your intake of sugar. I mean, maybe what we need to be doing is putting that in our core curriculum at school, and instead of teaching multicultural pluralism, which a lot of our schools now teach, maybe we should be teaching nutrition and health. Maybe that might be better. But the idea that something the government likes, it can just slam a tax on it and make the people who consume that product pay more. Somehow that rubs me the wrong way, and particularly given that all of these things somehow ultimately affect small business. At some point in time, it's small businesses that bear the brunt of a lot of the taxation activity that the government engages in. After all, somebody's got to collect that tax, somebody's got to remit it to the government. Who is that? Is it now granted, Coca-Cola probably can manage to figure out how to do it, but there's a lot of small beverage manufacturers out there. We're putting an added burden on small beverage manufacturers, and that's just not fair. That's my opinion. It's Mike Manahan, your host, Biz Rap Radio. We, of course, are the show all about small business and entrepreneurs. Thank you so much for joining us. We are the show that is fixing America through individual economic freedom. And Biz Rap Radio, your host, Michael Manahan. And thank you so much for joining us.